project, we will be jean upcycling. My daughter has 2 pair of jeans that she likes that don't fit quite right, and we are going to modernize them a little bit and add a little extra room in the thigh and rear end by doing the cute little inset. Stripes down the side of your pants are very in right now, and jeans with an alternating color inset, especially like a white denim or a dark denim in a light jean, that sort of thing is really cute. So we bought white denim and we are going to alter these cute jeans. So I'm going to show you the before now. And then turn and give us a side. Yeah, and then I'm going to show you the process we're going to go through to add an inset. If you have jeans that fit you like, the only thing you want to do is add a stripe down the side. You can buy a trim or a ribbon, something like that, and just hand stitch it right onto the jean and you're done. Super easy. But for us, these jeans don't fit quite right and we want to change the fit as well as add the inset. So we're going to have a little bit more of a process. So next, what I'm going to do is start seam ripping this side seam, and I'm also going to take the stitches out on the waistband above the side seam where I'm seam ripping. So now I have a little hole. Now that I have the hole, I can kind of separate it and see just my stitches and break just those and make it go a lot faster. You don't want to put your seam ripper and just push. You'll actually slice through the fabric. I want to keep this seam allowance in here for reattaching this later. All right. So I'm going to just keep seam ripping. I'm going to be here for a while. I'll show you. See how it's going faster now. I'm going to go all the way up this leg, and I'm going to take out some of this waistband too. 20 minutes later, and I have 1 leg ripped out of the 4. So this is going to be over an hour's worth of work to rip out the jeans at the side seam. All right, we're going to start cutting our strips to insert into the jeans. I've just started by making a nice straight line. I'm just going to flip this up so you can kind of see the line there with my tailor's chalk and my ruler. Because I'm using this cutting mat below, I can actually just barely see through the lines. I just want it to be as straight a grain as possible. It was not cut straight of grain, as you can see. I bought plenty of extra, so I'm not going to worry about having an inch worth of waste. So I'm going straight down and just making my first line using my clear ruler. This ruler is 2 inches wide. I know I'm going to want to add at least 1 inch to the pant. I'm going to try them on my daughter to determine exactly how wide I'm going to make this little inset. So I'm going to cut a 2-inch strip. So if I want extra, I've got it. So I'm just going to use my ruler, lining up my old line and going down the other side. It's really up to you. If you want whatever width you want your finished strip to be, add at least 1/4 inch to each side for your seam allowance and you'll be good. So I need to cut 4 of these, and I'm just going to keep going down like this and making my strips, and then I can cut. I have my marks on. I've marked the length I need. I've made sure I had enough at the top and the bottom for seam allowance, and now I'm just going to cut straight down. If you have a rotary cutter, that would make it much easier. And I'm going to do that on all of my pieces. We have our strips. They are cut. This is the little selvage edge. So they are cut cross grain, not lengthwise grain. It just took less fabric, and it's actually going to look cute. I like the change in grain for them. So I've got 4 strips. Because of how the jeans were made, 1 pair of jeans, when I ripped them out, we also lost the serging. So I'm going to, for 1 pair, they're going to get serged together and sewn. And for the other pair, I already have the serging on the jean. So I'm going to serge 2 strips and sew only. So for 2 strips, I'm going to run down and do the serger on. and for 2 strips, they're going to be serged directly to the jean. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and serge 2 of my strips. But let me start with the jeans that I'm not going to serge. So here they are, all ripped apart, including up at the waist. And because of how they're made, here's the little grommet right there, the little brad that reinforces the pocket. I'm going to grab one of my little strips. And one strip on the front side where the pocket is, I'm just going to pin it together all the way down and stitch it. So grab my pins. Bloop. Here we are. Making sure to match up here at the top where my extra seam allowance is from the waist. And we're going to just stick a few pins in. And when I go to sew this, I'm going to sew it with the jean side up because I want to be able to see that thing and miss it. I do not want to hit that. That's very important to me. Now, on the back side, because I want this 1-inch strip to show all the way up at the waist. So here we are. I want this 1-inch strip to be at the waist like this. I want to add in extra at the hip. I'm going to lose a little up here at the waist, and I'll take this to my cutting board and show you how that's going to work, but you can already see this is how it's going to look stitched in. Isn't that going to be cute? So I'm going to pin down on both legs to the front of the jean the strip for this pair that I have to reserge the whole thing. And I'm going to first just straight stitch it on, then serge it, and then I'm going to flip it over and top stitch it. So I have a couple processes to do on this. So I'm going to go ahead and pin and straight stitch and serge. It's serged. There you can see the little brad. And the next thing I have to decide, I'm going to just open so you can see, this is serged only, 4-thread serged. Whoop, let me grab it, there we go. Can you see the dark line? That's where the old stitching was, which actually can look really cool. So I need to talk to my daughter and see if she wants to see that or if she wants it to go away. And that will determine how deep I sew my straight stitch. If she doesn't want to see it, I can easily see on this side of the jean where the old straight stitch was, and I can just line right on top of that and stitch it. If she likes it, awesome. We're going to leave it, and I'm going to flip this back, and I'm going to do a top stitch along here. I bought jean needles, and I bought nice heavy denim stitching thread. They call it jean thread sometimes. Sometimes it'll have another name, but it's a nice heavy thread that's very similar to what's already on here. So I can top stitch this, and it's going to be similar to all the thread colors that are already on there. So next thing I have to do is talk to my daughter before I know which stage to go to next. I'm top stitching now. I've got it folded under, and I just went over the little brad. It's right there. I'm going to stitch a little bit more so you see, but this is all that I'm doing. I've got my stitch length at about a 3. You want a little bit longer stitch length on a heavy thing like this. I have my denim needle in. I'm using Schmetz needles, which are universal needle, and they're actually marked blue at the top. And the Schmetz needle, denim needle, is the larger eye, which is really important when you're using the heavier thread that I'm using. So I'm just going to do a couple stitches for you. And I just have moved my needle position over. I've got the edge of the blue against the inside toe of this wide foot, and this seam allowance is pushed under, so I'm stitching through all those layers. Right here at the pocket, it was quite heavy. Now I don't have to push or anything, I'm just keeping it pressed open. And that's it. So let me just bring this around. That's how it looks. I'll give you a close-up in a minute when it's off the machine. Oh, this is so cute. I like it, I like it. So that's how it looks so far. It's a little hard to see the stitching, but the stitching actually, just because of where I put the needle position, here's my insert, my little dark seam, and then the stitching is right next to it. So I'm going to look at, gives it a little racing stripe. I just think that's the cutest ever. So I'm going to do the other one. Here's the other side, ready for me to do. And I will tell you, because of how this is sewn, it was super, see right here at the pocket, I had to go in and straight stitch just a little bit to get this part so that the blue shadow, the dark blue shadow is even, and it's in the pocket area, and you can actually see the stitching line, the old stitching line, so that's what I'm using. So I had to restitch just a little bit of straight stitch right in this little section. So I'm going to do that, top stitch this, and then we're ready to work on the second part of the leg. I am so in love. I'm glad I did it that way. Now we're going to put the pant together. So down here is this is the hem, and you can see I didn't take the whole hem out. I just took out enough to get this stitched in. So I need to trim this off down here, and we're going to open this up like this and stitch together, and we're going to have a circle. See, it'll be a whole pant leg, but we're not going to start at the bottom. We're actually going to start at the top. So here I've got it folded together. I know I'm going to lose some of this back here. I'm going to have to take off this belt loop, I'm sure. But I'm going to go ahead and pin it together down here, and I'm going to stitch this leg together below that spot. So my daughter can try these on and we can figure out exactly how much. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, the bottom of both legs. She's going to have an opening up here. I'm thinking, because we know she needs it in the hip and thigh, I'm going to start it all the way down here. And I'm not going to serge it yet. I'm just going to baste it in on both legs, and then she can try it on. We can do all the little fiddly bit about how much to take out up here. If your pants fit perfectly and you're doing this method, you're just going to actually cut a pie-shaped piece out to match how much you're adding in at the waist. So if you're adding an extra inch at the waist, you'll start at an inch and you'll ease it back down, and that way you don't change your pant fit at all. Okay, so I'm going to pin and baste next. A quick update on how this video is going to go. We tried on both pair of jeans on my daughter, figured out how much we need to take out, etc., to make it fit. We like the width, the full width, so it's going to be more than an inch. But after trying on both pair of jeans, one pair just doesn't, she never liked the fit to begin with. We hoped that changing this would make the fit better. It doesn't. They just aren't the right jeans. So we're actually going to only finish one pair. I'm not going to put a ton of time into the darker pair. They're a boy cut. They're real straight. I have a curvy girl, and these are nice curvy jeans. They just don't fit the same. So you'll only be seeing me work on these jeans for the rest of the video. All right, this is it pinned. So I'm just going to, you can see this is where my stitching stopped. I'm just going to continue stitching that same width all the way up. And then I'm going to double check it before I cut anything off, but that's at the waist. Then the little carrier or belt loop will slide back in. We'll stitch this across, and then we'll come back and stitch that down. And that's really it. So I'm going to straight stitch this, double check. If it's right, I'll go ahead and serge all of this, and it'll serge off this excess. We're all stitched. I'm getting, or put together, but not finished. So I've got this turned up to finish my hem. You can see it kind of is wavy, and it actually was wavy before I ripped it out, so I'm not too concerned about it. I'm going to straighten it out a little bit and just stitch straight across. And then here's what it looks like at the waist. If you're working over a belt loop or a carrier like this, you don't stitch this part down. What you do first, that is, you do stitch it down eventually. You get everything tucked in where it belongs, and you stitch across. Here you can actually get your foot in, so you see you can stitch across here. And this is loose, so it'll let you move around it. And then once this waistband is stitched, you come back and you stitch that down. And I'll show you, my sewing machine, and a lot of machines do, have a special little pre-programmed stitch for doing this sort of thing. So I'll show you that on my machine in a minute. But now I'm ready to go do my finishing top stitches, and then I will show you what the carrier stitch looks like, and then we'll see the jeans done. I'm hemmed. I have the waistband on. all that's left is to finish the little carriers so it looks like it originally did, which is like this. I'm sorry, the light is not great. Right, there we go. So here's the carrier before, and it still has some old thread. I'll have to get all that off there before I start stitching. But on my machine, there's a couple stitches that you could use, but on this one, number 24, I don't know if you can see, but what it does is it does 2 little straight stitches and then some zigzags over it. It's a tacking stitch, that's what it is. If you don't have that, what you want to do is straight stitch it down and then set your machine for a teeny tiny zigzag and go back and forth over it a couple times, and it'll look very similar. Now, here's my concern. I'm using this super heavy thread, and the heavy thread does not like to do a tight zigzag. So we're gonna see how well it does. All right, it likes it just fine. Woot! It did a great job, and that looks exactly like the stitching on the belt loop. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my 2 belt loops, and we're done. They're done. Here they are. Look at how cute that is. Down the side seam. There's the belt loop with the carrier. The little hem. So my daughter's going to go put these on, and we'll get to see them finished and how cute they are. And if you like the little top that I'm wearing, I made that in another video, and I'll put the little iCard up in the link and probably another one down in the description so you can learn to make this too. See you next time.